all that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. I have absolutely no pleasure in the stimulants in which I sometimes so madly indulge. It has not been in the pursuit of pleasure that I have periled life and reputation and reason. It has been the desperate attempt to escape from torturing memories, from a sense of insupportable loneliness and a dread of some strange impending doom. Literature is the most noble of professions. In fact, it is about the only one fit for a man. For my own part, there is no seducing me from the path. I become insane with long intervals of horrible sanity. The true genius shudders at incompetence, imperfection, and usually prefers silence to saying the something which is not everything that should be said. Years of love have been forgot in the hatred of a minute. All religion, my friend, is simply evolved out of fraud, fear, greed, imagination, and poetry. With me, poetry has been not a purpose, but a passion, and the passion should be held in the reverence. They must not. They cannot at will be excited with an eye of the paltry compensations or the more paltry commendations of mankind. Melancholy is the most legitimate of all the poetical tones. If you wish to forget anything on the spot, make a note that this is to be remembered. Beauty of whatever kind, in its supreme development, invariably excites the sensitive soul to tears. The boundaries which divide life from death are at best shadowy and vague. Who shall say where the one ends and where the other begins? There is no exquisite beauty without some strangeness in the proportion. It is by no means an irrational fancy in a future existence we shall look upon what we think our present existence as a dream. Deep into the darkness peering, long I stood there, wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. Those who dream by day are cognizant of many things which escape those who dream only by night. And so, being young and dipped in folly, I fell in love with melancholy. Invisible things are the only realities. Science has not yet taught us if madness is or is not the sublimity of the intelligence. Words have no power to impress the mind without the exquisite horror of their reality. The fury of a demon instantly possessed me. I knew myself no longer. My original soul seemed at once to take its flight from my body, and a more than fiendish malevolence, gin-natured, thrilled every fiber of my frame. Experience has shown, and a true philosophy will always show, that a vast, perhaps the larger, portion of truth arises from the seemingly irrelevant. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. The realities of the world affected me as visions, and the visions only, while the wild ideas of the land of dreams become in turn not the material of my everyday existence, but in very deed that existence utterly and solely in itself. The customs of the world are so many conventional follies. I was never really insane except upon occasions where my heart was touched. In beauty of face, no maiden ever equaled her. It was the radiance of an opium dream, an airy and spirit-lifting vision more wildly divine than the fantasies which hovered about the slumbering souls of the daughters of Delos. But as in ethics, evil as a consequence of good, so, in fact, out of joy is sorrow born. Either the memory or the past bliss of the anguish of today is the anguish of today, or the agonies which all have their origin in the ecstasies which might have been. In our endeavors to recall the memory of something long forgotten, we often find ourselves upon the very verge of remembrance without being able, in the end, to remember. There is an eloquence in true enthusiasm. I intend to put up with nothing that I can put down. When a madman appears thoroughly sane, indeed, it is high time to put him in a straitjacket. In other words, I believed, and still do believe, that truth is frequently of its own essence superficial, and that, in many cases, the depth lies more in the abyss where we seek her than in the actual situations where she may be found. To vilify a great man is the readiest way in which a little man can himself attain greatness. To be thoroughly conversant with man's heart is to take our final lesson in the iron-clasped volume of despair. No thinking being lives who at some luminous point of his life of thought has not felt himself lost amid the surges of futile efforts at understanding or believing that anything exists greater than his own soul. For my own part, I have never had a thought which I could not set down in words with even more distinctness than that which I conceived it. There are few persons, even among the calmest thinkers, who have not occasionally been startled to a vague yet thrilling half-credence in the supernatural by the coincidences of so seemingly marvelous a character that as mere coincidences the intellect has been able to receive them. You will observe that the stories told are all about money seekers, not about money finders. That man is not truly brave who is afraid either to seem or to be, when it suits him, a coward. From childhood's hour, I have not been as others were. I have not seen as others saw. To him who still would gaze upon the glory of the summer sun, there comes, when that sun will from him part, a sullen hopelessness of heart. Ah, not in knowledge is happiness, but in the acquisition of knowledge. In forever knowing, we are forever blessed, but to know all were the curse of a fiend. I have not only labored solely for the benefit of others, receiving for myself a miserable pittance, but have been forced to model my thoughts at the will of men whose imbecility was evident to all but themselves. For passion must, with youth, expire. Actually, I do have doubts, all the time. Any thinking person does. There are so many sides to every question. But it is a trait in the perversity of human nature to reject the obvious and the ready for the far distant and equivocal. It is evident that we are hurrying onward to some exciting knowledge, some never to be imparted secret, whose attainment is destruction. As for republicanism, no analogy could be found for it upon the face of earth, unless we accept the case of the prairie dogs, an exception which seems to demonstrate, if anything, that democracy is a very admirable form of government for dogs. There are two bodies, the rudimental and the complex. Corresponding with the two conditions of the worm and the butterfly, what we call death is but the painful metamorphosis. Our present incarnation is progressive, preparatory, temporary. Our future is perfected, ultimate, immortal. The ultimate life is the full design.